my topic, as I mentioned, is about comics, basically. I like comics, as you can see. But no, it kind of relates to yourselves personally, and then on like a more wider scale, like populace in general. It was like, why? Because comics are so popular right now in terms of the characters, like the Avengers and everything. It's, box office gold. But that's not really translating into sales with comics. So, why do you think that is? And like, what would it take for you to become like a regular comic reader? What would get you
Excited.
reading? Yeah, what would get you excited and wanting to keep up with a certain hero or story? Not necessarily superheroes, but comics in general.
Well, me and you personally, we've had like discussions about this before, and I think I definitely do want to get into comics, but the big issue is it's very daunting. It's knowing where to start, and I've started reading some fantastic comics quite recently, including Saga. I think that was your recommendation, a very good recommendation of that. But it's it's so daunting, and there's so much going on. There's so much history and lore, but that's one thing. Also, I think it's a sign of how comics have the characters in comics have transcended what they originally were. They've become bigger than the comics. This is what happens with like sort of like pop culture phenomenons. You'll have things that they're bigger than what they started out as, and what that means is it's attracted a whole bunch of new fans who maybe like cinema more than they like comics and stuff. So you've got all these new fans, but bringing people in, I think it's really tough. I don't know how you'd get people in. I think it's up to them to go and search. I think that there needs to be some sort of guide, someone to say, this is a good place to start. This is a good comic. This is a good series. So that's kind of my view.
I think, yeah. I mean, it's one of those. If give me a comic book that's been made into a film that's been popular this
Batman.
year.
Oh, this year. What was this year?
No, this year. Like, well, what about the
Avengers.
Marvel? Yeah, like the Avengers. Right. Okay. If there was a stall right outside the cinema when everyone left from watching the Avengers, and it had comic books from that, and have a read through, I think people would stand there, and if they got the time, they would, and they'd be like, oh, this is pretty good. Yeah, go on, then I'll have that.
That's actually a really good idea.
Yeah, pay me. But I think that's the problem. Is people go to the film. They go to the cinema to go and watch this, and it's easy. It doesn't require anything. But lots of people who don't read, they like the movies because it's not imagination. You don't really have to think about it yourself. Imagination. They just get to sit there, stuff their face with popcorn, and watch a brilliant film. I'm not doubting it. It's an incredible film. I like it myself. But a lot of people, they struggle to read because they don't have this imagination to visualize it in their head. That's why they prefer the films and whatever, or they wait for films to be made out of books that are popular. Comic books is that middle ground, because although you have to have a bit of imagination, you've got you've got the images there, you've got the text there, you can see it all, storyboard right there for you. So it's definitely a stepping stone for people who want to get into maybe even just reading a bit more often. Personally, myself, I read the first Saga and I thought that was really good, but then the authors that I read bought out a new book, and it was like, oh, I'm going to read this now. And then I struggle.
On the back burner.
Yeah, and it does, and it just kept getting put back. Another book came out, and I mean, I'm into all typical like YA novels and contemporary romance and all that kind of crap, typical female. And even though there is that in Saga, obviously there's romance in it and everything like that, there was just a lot of sci-fi kind of, because that's what it is. There was just a lot of that in there, and it was a bit like, this is a bit surreal for me.
Yeah.
There's robots shagging. I don't know what to do with that. It was just
your review of Saga.
Yeah, there's robots shagging. Don't know what to do. But I think that was the thing for me. I just kept putting it on the back burner. But I think there's definitely a market for people like you say, it is such a shame that the comic book sales aren't being affected by such brilliant films that are getting such great reviews. But I think it is just people not knowing what to do with that.
Yeah, I think like there is slight increase in sales, but it's not drawing people in. I think it's just existing comic fans seeing something else come out and they're like, oh, okay, I'll get behind that and whatever. So yeah, it's a strange one that, like, I'll talk about it all the time, but like, there's such a difference between like what we've got here, like Daredevil and Wonder Woman and Spider-Man, like what you just think as a comic, to stuff like Saga, like
Yeah, true. Graphic novels.
yeah, it's by Image, and all the stuff that Image do is creator own, and so that's where The Walking Dead came from.
Yeah.
And there's a few other property. I think what's it called, Witches, is Scott Snyder did last year, and that's going to get turned into a film.
Okay.
I think Brad Pitt's production company picked up the rights for it. But yeah, that's not superhero books. That's just using like the comic format to tell the story, and it works really well for things like that.
I think this might be another problem. Is there's a misconception that the entirety of comics consists of Marvel and DC.
Yeah, and superhero kind of thing.
The reality of it is
That is true.
Comics are just as diverse as any other form of medium, and not only are they just as diverse, they've evolved like the same way cinema and video games are evolving into sometimes darker sort of stuff. Like Batman's a perfect example. It went from being quite light-hearted to exploring very dark and cerebral sort of topics. But there's a lot of comics out there that aren't Batman, that aren't from DC or Marvel, that I think would make people, that could satisfy what people want.
Yeah,
It's like, I mean, is there a website? There probably is, but is there, if there was a website somewhere could go to and they could say, well, this is the category that I read at the moment, or this is what I'm interested in. They say, well, here's all the comic books that are available.
Yeah, I mean, you can go on to
Obviously,
places like Reddit. I've gone on Reddit before and been like, hey, I'm looking to read a few more things that aren't just superhero books. I really like Saga and Black Science is the other one. Lenny, I'm not sure if you read that, but that's going to be sci-fi, so if you're not into it, fair enough. But it's like questioning like the morals of like dimension hopping and stuff, and I was like, that's really cool. Like, and asked for more stuff like that. That's how I started reading Witches, and they're all Image books, to be fair. Southern Bastard is another one, and they're all just really, really good stories, but they're not.
That's what the
not
thing
necessarily
is, that's what
hi-fi and whatnot.
Because when we go comic book shopping, I tend to look at more obscure stuff. Don't I? I tend to pick
and
stuff
then
up,
put it down, and don't buy it.
Never buy it. I'm like, that looks good. I'm like, it looks good and it feels great, but I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Whereas I head over to the desk with this like
Massive pile.
Odd. I think as well. I went into Waterstones the other day, and they got their graphic novel section there, and the shelf is so pretty. I mean, there is so much to choose from, and I just feel if people weren't so intimidated, I don't know why there is such a strange thing around it, but if people could actually go over and just literally just pull one out and just have a flick through and just see see if you get a feel for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the
People
daunting
just don't
aspect is
try.
like the serial side of it, and companies try and combat that all the time with. Marvel's notorious for it. They're like relaunching number ones constantly to try and get people in.
Yeah.
And to be fair, before the Daredevil show came on, they redid a load of Marvel number ones. Right, okay, I'll jump on, and it was Mark Waid's last run on the story, but it was really, really, really good. And I wouldn't have jumped in before then. But yeah, it's just kind of jumping in. Like the Superman books, I read the Superman books, but I haven't read that from number 1 from the New 52. I think I jumped in at number 30 or something.
Yeah.
But like they set it up so that when arcs start, you can jump in and stuff. So it
cool.
can be. I don't know. It's a hard one with superheroes. It's weird because you could jump in at any point and know what's going on.
Yeah.
Like you know who Batman is.
Yeah, but I mean,
you know
like,
what he's about. But
I'm just thinking like another. I know we keep saying it, but Saga. I don't feel like you could pick up
that's what I mean.
the
You
second
couldn't,
book and then pick it up, because I mean, even from the first book it was a bit like, whoa, what's going on, but it all slowly got explained.
But Saga's brilliant. I'm not sure if all of the Image stuff is like it. I don't think Walking Dead is, but they'll release I think it's five or 6 issues and like 1 month apart, so that's 6 months. Then they'll wait a month and then they're released all collected, and then they wait a month, and then they're released like the next ones again.
Oh, that's good.
So it's constantly in like the top 10 like paperbacks now from like bookstores because they do it like that.
Yeah.
So people are picking up the first issue and being like,
It's starting to do
"Ooh,
very
this is
well,
really
isn't
good."
it? I think that's starting to sort of move into more popular consciousness now because I am hearing about it in more and more places. I've got to say as well, there's a strange sort of dichotomy with comics and like in popular culture in our movies. They bring in the most money, undoubtedly beyond a shadow of a doubt. They make the most money, and there's still a stigma attached to people who read comics.
Yeah, like it's
No.
It doesn't make any sense. It's like that's popular culture, but then people have still got that stigma attached.
Yeah.
I suppose like you're saying, it's the same with anything. Like it might like end up becoming something completely different from what it started. Like Harry Potter, I suppose. Like I know loads of people who have watched the films and never read the books.
Me.
Yeah.
It's that type of thing. And yeah, you can. Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm like that with Lord of the Rings. I think Matt hasn't read the Lord of the Rings books, has he?
No, he's not very into reading it. Like
Exactly.
I was saying, there's different people who
you
prefer
can
to
still
wait for
love
films.
that material, just in a different format
Yeah.
and stuff. But no one looks down on like the other side of the coin so much as with comic book stuff. Like you could say, I've never read the Lord of the Rings book, and everyone's just like, yeah, I wouldn't read them either, but the films are really good.
Yeah.
Whereas you say with the like comic book, oh, have you read the comics? Like, no,
Oh, you read
I'm gonna read
comics.
the what?
Yeah.
It's like you've just experienced the same story that
Yeah.
I experienced reading. Why is it different?
Yeah. Yeah, there is, and I think as well, it's always the typical nerd thing, isn't it? In any film or cartoon or TV series or anything, when they're doing the typical nerd, it's always the glasses and the back and the rucksack and everything.
There's still
And
that
comic
image.
books, there's still that image. Of,
It's so odd because geek culture is popular culture now. By like I said,
Geek
beyond
It's
coming
not.
in.
It's not
beyond
the
a shadow of a
minority
doubt. It's bringing in the most money on all fronts, on every single front. It's where the big books are. I
But
think,
like The Walking Dead is the most notable
everyone's
example of
talking
it.
about
People absolutely love that.
I bet some people still don't know. It's based
Well,
on
some
a-
people don't
No,
know,
they
yeah.
don't know.
But then there's people that love the show that are like, oh, you should really read the comics are really good, and they're like, oh, read the comics. Like, it's really good. That's where this came from.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah.
And The Walking Dead do it really well because it's two separate storylines. Like they're pretty much the same, but stuff will happen in the comic that doesn't happen in the thing. I've said this. I'm pretty much said it on every podcast. but yeah, it's a really like interesting way. Like you try and say that to people, and they're just like not interested.
Yeah.
shame.
Sometimes people just haven't got the motivation. It's easier to watch a film.
That's what I was saying. It's
yeah.
just easy, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
convenient.
I always think people. I think I've said this before as well. I think people always tend to go to whatever's most convenient, which is a little bit of a shame because they're missing out on some like fantastic works. And one of my favourite films is a Japanese manga called Akira. It's an incredible like sort of the film's incredible, but they try to squeeze so much into a 2-hour film. There's a lot that doesn't make sense, and I finally bought the entire graphic novels. There's quite a lot to it as well. I blazed through them though, and it was so much more engaging.
Yeah.
It's I can't even like put into words what people are missing out on.
Yeah.
And not only. I know it's good as well because it was there was no colour drawing into it. But when I imagine it back, I don't imagine the comic book pages. I imagine
Being
it all.
black, yeah,
it's
yeah.
all colour. They're talking, and it's engaging your imagination.
Yeah. Then there's so aside from like the kind of like I say the superhero stuff, there's some really interesting ways of using the graphic novel medium to tell stories. Like one of my favourite ones that I've got, it's called The Fifth Beatle, and it's about the Beatles manager, and he was gay, and it was about him like struggling with all that. He ended up committing suicide, but the book's like it's beautiful, like the way they tell the story. You got like these massive pages, and it's all like psychedelic.
That's really nice.
It was from a few years ago. I think they're trying to make it into a film. I think,
It sounds really familiar.
but like I say, like everyone known the story, but until it was presented in that way, it's like kind of people go, "Oh, this would be really interesting to."
Yeah.
But it's amazing. Like I say, that's like a history book, kind of. I mean, it's
Yeah.
got a narrative
Yeah.
to it anyway. But you know what I mean? Like, there's so many more interesting ways people can utilize it.
Persepolis as well, which has
Yeah.
won numerous awards. Mouse as well. They're both graphic novels which tell deeply sort of like profound stories, and it's in a graphic novel form.
But even like, I think I was telling you about it. That one of the new Batman, it's kind of like a one-off story in between like arcs, but it's on about him like chasing down like a street gang or whatever. And obviously you got like the race problems in America. It kind of touches on that. It's like how like Gotham police are like cracking down on like black youths and stuff. And it's just like, whoa,
That's pretty.
like,
I do love it when comics do that.
that's what I mean. Like it's a really interesting way to put social
Yeah,
topics and like hot button issues into
I think there
kind of
was
people who wouldn't really think about it.
I think people have done very well in that area, and they've kind of gone into the mainstream with it. It's people like Alan Moore, whose graphic novels aren't just he'll use like popular characters, but then tell very sort of human stories, and I think that's when they started to change a little bit. So I think here's probably a good middle ground if you wanted to start going into comics and looking at.
Yeah, I don't know though. He's quite. He can be quite hard to read.
You can be like From House, quite hard to read, but it's a really good read too. So it's a good sort of jump off.
And Neil Gaiman with all like
Neil,
Sandman series and
they
stuff like
turning
that.
that into a film.
Yeah, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's turning it into a film. But yeah, like say Vertigo and all those kind of stuff, like Constantine. Like it's just there's so much out there. But I would highly recommend that we. Well, I'd like to actually take it when we. Oh, well, that's it. We'll get to Comic-Con. When we go into Comic-Con.
We're
going to Comic-Con.
Is it the 22nd?
22nd, Sunday.
Yeah.
Birmingham NEC. See you there.
Or will you? Because we'll be in disguise.
Or cosplay.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
That's it then. We should all pick something for each of us to read.
Yeah, I'm totally up for that.
Like a Secret
Do we have to
Santa.
decide
Like
on
a
it?
Secret Santa,
we have to
but with
decide on it now?
comics. No, that's not a secret then, is it?
I was going to say.
Oh, see, sorry.
You don't even watch the stuff that you're in when you're in it.
No,
I don't
that'd be
watch
good.
my work back. I just sort of do it and then
Yeah.
it's out
Go on
there.
a whim, yeah.
But that'd be quite cool because you will be surprised at what's out there.
No, that's a really good idea. Cool, we'll do that.
Yeah, I'm totally up for that.
Yay!
Sweet comics.
Yay, comics.
I swear I'll talk about something different at some point, other than Star Wars and comics. No, I won't. That's the only reason I'm here.
Oh, Sam's here again. Star Wars and comics.
Star Wars wasn't even my idea. It's his fault.
It was
He
the
doesn't
Star
even go here.